So today was one of those days where it absolutely rained and rained all day. I wanted to get out and shoot really bad, but it didn't look as if the rain was going to let up anytime soon. Now don't get me wrong, I believe there are images to be had in conditions such as these. However, today I wanted to stay in the warm confines of the house, have some hot coffee, look through some old images, and just relax. So as I was looking through some old images and some recent videos and comments I had received, I thought to myself, why not go back and address some of the comments and advice from one of my most recent vlogs. So if you remember the vlog a few weeks ago when I was down at Napa Tree Point capturing the sunset along the beach, the sky unexpectedly caught fire. It had such vibrant oranges and reds. It was simply spectacular. Truly one of the best sunsets of 2018 here in Rhode Island. However, when I edited the images, for some reason during the process I felt as if the images would look better in the vlog and video if they weren't as dark and contrasty. So I brightened them up. And from the comments that I received, which by the way, I take no offense whatsoever to the constructive criticism. In fact, I appreciate it and welcome it, so please don't stop giving me feedback. Anyways, a lot of your comments expressed how many of you would have liked to have seen the images in the vlog look more like what you were seeing in the actual video footage. Much more darker and with more contrast, and definitely more moody. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go back and re-edit the main image from the vlog. We're going to transform it from this to something more like this. We will walk through the process of how we were able to come up with this newly edited image, one that I believe better represents the actual feel and mood of that specific sunset. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so let's get right into editing this image. Alright, so if you can see here, I've went ahead actually and done a few things to the image already, just to save us some time here in the editing process. I've went ahead and removed all the spots. My sensor probably could use a good cleaning right now, but I went ahead and removed the spots before we got to this spot, just to save a couple of minutes. And also you can see down here in the bottom left hand corner of the frame, my vlogging camera's flip out screen was actually in the bottom left hand part of the frame. That's not a big deal because I plan on cropping this anyway, so that won't be in the image. It's not going to affect it at all, but it's kind of funny that I didn't catch that when I was taking the image itself. Let's go ahead and look at I'm going to go through my normal workflow. So one of the first things I'll do in editing an image is looking to see how I may want to crop it and what style I want this to be cropped. Now in the original vlog you saw two different crops. You saw a portrait and then you saw a landscape. This obviously is the landscape image itself, the one that's in the wider so I think I'm going to go ahead and make this a 16:9 crop. That's what I did with it before, so we're going to go up here to the crop adjustment tool. I'm going to swing down to the 16:9 and do a real quick crop. I'm going to bring it in from the left hand a little bit just to get that camera out of there. I'm going to level the horizon as much as possible. It looks like I had a pretty good level to begin with. I'm not going to drop the bottom of the image all the way down onto the bottom third grid line. I'm actually going to bring it up, not all the way to the center, but just below center, just to bring, I want to use the leading line of the whitewash of the beach going back into the ocean as the leading line of the bottom left hand corner of the frame. And I think if I went up here too far, I'll lose some of the top or the bottom, well actually the top of the whitewash on the beach there. And I also want to use, if you look at the clouds up here on the top, I want the streaks as they come down to be the leading line from the left hand top left hand corner of the frame down into this area here, which obviously is the setting sun on the horizon. Okay, so that right there looks like a good beginning to our image. I think I'll come down here to lens correction. I actually have already got it checked. Sorry, it's a bad habit. As soon as I come into the Lightroom, there's a few things that I do automatically. But just so you can go through your own and in your own workflow, just remember to come down here, enable any profile corrections, or get the correct profile for the camera that you're using and the lens you are using. It automatically recognizes a 16 to 35. I don't feel any need to remove any chromatic aberrations. I don't believe that there's probably any there on the horizon or anywhere. So I don't really see any need to do that. So let's go back up to the top of the image. One of the first things I'll probably look at in this image is adjust the white balance of the image. Because obviously when we saw in the video, it looked much warmer in the image than what we're seeing right now on this raw file. I mean, the Nikon does a really good job of shooting an auto white balance and giving a good replication and a good start point for the white balance. But I'm going to go ahead and take the white balance and probably bring it up to maybe 9500. If you see how we go from as it was shot at 78 and bring it up to 95, about that area there, maybe even a little bit warmer. Let's go to around 11,000 on the Kelvin. Bring the magentas up just a little bit, another value of 10 on that. It was around 10, so I brought it up to about 21 on the magenta. So I think that right there is a good starting point for there. I'm going to come down to the highlights. I'm going to drop these all the way down to -100 because I think that I don't want the areas right here where the sun is really hitting the edge of these clouds. I don't want that to be too blown out. I want to try to get some of the definition back in the clouds with the sun reflecting on them. I'm going to go with the shadows. I'm going to bring those up probably just around 70. I don't see where I need to go any further than that, around 70, 75 or so. I think that's going to be good there. I am going to bring up the contrast to maybe about 25. Anywhere between 25 and 30 should be fine. I like that there. Bring these whites down a bit. Bring the blacks down. Yeah, I think this is starting to look like the way I was seeing it on the video and the vlog itself. So I'm going to bring the clarity up to about 25 as well. Bring the blacks back up just a tad. Vibrance I'm going to drop down to maybe -15 and bring the saturation up to about +20. And it's starting to really look a lot more like it was on the video itself, so I think we'll keep going with it. So that's about where I've got just to start on the basics there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and look at the tone curve. I'm going to bring the lights up just a little bit, the darks down just a little bit. And if you can see in the curve, it's just a very gradual S curve. I like to use the sliders to do my adjustments in my tone curve. I think that's about it right there. And then I'm going to come down into the HSL section. I'm going to work in the saturation. I don't need to do too much with the hues, I don't think. But I'm going to work in the saturation side itself. I'm just going to bring up the values of the reds, the oranges, and the yellows. I'm going to probably bring the blues down, because if you see up here in this top section of the image, when I put the blues back up here, it just gives it a really blue grayish color, where if I bring them down, not that far, but just bring them down out of there, it kind of just blends this section up here in a little bit better. There's not too much of a difference between the blue and I think the grays that are there in the image itself. I'm going to bring up the magentas a little bit, just to bring some of that color and saturation, I think, in this section here, this cloud. Alright, then I'm going to come over to the luminance sliders, and I'm going to look at the same things a little bit. Just bring the reds up, bring the oranges up, bring the yellows up a tad bit, just to give a little pop and vibrance and brightness to this area here. Again, I think I'm going to drop the blues down a little bit, bring the magentas up a tad. I think that's good for the HSL section. I I think I'm going to try a little bit in my highlights and my split toning. I don't do a lot of split toning, but I think this image here would probably work well with some split toning. I think I'm going to bring the saturation up to about 26, and then I'm going to bring the slider to a little bit more warm and yellow section, and then I'll readjust the saturation to where I think I want it. Again, I'm just really trying to get to match what I saw, or what we saw on the video footage when we were there standing on that beach. And it's getting a little bit closer, I think. I think that's all I'm going to do in a split toning. And I'm going to come down to the sharpening. This is pretty much automatic. What I tend to do with most of my images is I'll just go ahead and bring the sharpening up to around 75 or so, just to clean up the image itself all around. I don't think there's any need to do much more with that. I don't see that much noise in the image, and it was a 30-second exposure at f8, so I don't see a lot of noise within the image itself, but it doesn't hurt just to bring a little touch of noise reduction into the image itself. So I'll bring it up to 6 on that. Now I do tend to, especially on night like this, there was a tad bit of haze in the sky, so I'll come down and I'll add a little bit of dehazing to the image, maybe +8 for this one. Now as I go back up, I see that I'm starting to lose a little bit of information in my blacks, so I'll bring those blacks back, and I'll bring back the information that was then crushed by increasing a little bit of the dehaze. Now when I did drop that add that dehaze, sometimes by adding the dehaze it'll bring in some of the spots that they'll show up a little bit more than what they were before. And I see one right here that's kind of distracting just a little bit, and hopefully it can, yeah, that right there took it away really well. I don't see any more that just pop out at me, but that one definitely, when I looked there at that horizon, definitely popped out as an imperfection. So I think that we've gotten to a point where we have gotten this image just about to where it was and how we were seeing it in the video itself. So and what I typically will do after this, once I'm satisfied with the image that I've got and how it looks, I'll take the image just so you can see a little bit more of my workflow. Just because I like to have that white crop, and I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm doing this in a fashion that's adding too much to my workflow and you can tell me an easier way to do it, I'm definitely down for that. But typically with this, I'll go up here and I'll go to File, and then over here to the Photo section, Edit in Adobe Photoshop, and I'll pop open Adobe Photoshop. It takes a couple seconds. My computer's not the fastest, but it takes a couple of seconds. So typically when I get into Photoshop, I'm not here to do any editing of the image. I just want to resize the canvas size itself. So I'll come down to canvas size, and I'll add 0.2 to the value on each side of the height and width of the image, and that brings a nice little white border around the image, and I just think it looks better when I put it on the videos that way. So it just gives a better presentation of the image. So from here, what I'll do is I'll just take the file, I'll go to export, and I'll go down here to export as, because I want to export the largest and best file for uploading it to the video as I can, so it's got the best quality to it. Instead of downsizing it to a smaller JPEG file, I usually just allow it to download into a PNG full resolution file. Plus, by doing that, if I want to take it and have it printed, it's already in a good full size image. So I'll go down, obviously, I'll select where I want the image to go. I think I had a folder here. Yes, my folders are all out of whack here. Replace it. And there you go. And that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed today's vlog. I know it was a little bit not typical of what we used to do, which you're usually seeing me do, but definitely with the weather the way it was today outside, I just wasn't going to get out there and just completely get myself drenched, get my gear drenched, and just probably be miserable the entire time. So I think what we did today was a good little effort of doing a re-edit to show you that I do, for one, listen to your comments, take your advice, and I really appreciate all of that. So again, thank you for coming to the channel and watching it. If you haven't hit the subscribe button already, please do so. Hit that like button if you do like the content that we put out here. And until next time, I'll see you later.